Hey everybody, how y'all doing? This is Derek. I'm here with the New Grad mini series with Erica and Brooke. We also have a guest speaker today, Dr. Void Holmes. She's going to be speaking with us on question and answer series. So hopefully you all get a lot of information from it today. And let's go ahead and get started.
So the goal of today's video is just to talk about the interview process, and we have a few questions that we think are the most important that you want to know for that interview process, and the types of different things that you're going to encounter when you're trying to find a job, and how you follow up after you have that interview.
And just a reminder about Brown Girl membership. If you haven't yet signed up for membership, please do, especially if you're a student. Membership right now is only $20, and it includes an all access to scholarships, which there are scholarships for loops. I know that they do a scholarship to help pay for boards. They have a lot of really great opportunities. Also sponsored dental conventions, discounts on mission trips, mentoring, employment resources, and study and advice. Also, once you graduate, make sure you upgrade your professional membership. And I believe right now they're only $30.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, so let's get into the question and answer portion with Dr. VH. Dr. VH, did you want to introduce yourself a little bit prior to us getting started?
Sure. My name is Dr. Voight Holmes, better known as Dr. Joy on social media. So currently I am program director at Fortis College in Landover. I also own my own business, Dr. Joy RDH, where I'm involved with content development, developing webinar series, product testing, motivational speaking, and I do lecture internationally. I'm most proud of my role as a wife and mother. I'll be married 25 years this year, and I have 4 beautiful children. Kevin, who is 24, my Joy, who's 21, Kai is 17, and my baby girl, Joy, who just turned 8. So thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be a part of this series.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. We appreciate it.
No problem.
We definitely do. We definitely do. So the first question that I have, Doctor, is for a new grad coming into an interview process, how should I be preparing? What things should I bring, and what questions, what should I be asking?
Absolutely. So the first thing you need to do is know yourself, and then you need to know how to market yourself. So who are you? If I were to ask you a question today, who are you? What would you say? So one of the best ways to get to know yourself and truly assess yourself is to take a couple of different self-assessment quizzes, and a lot of these are free online. I know with dentalpost.com they offer a DISC assessment, and you truly get to see how you operate. You can identify some of those hard and soft skills, and that lets you get to the point where you're able to effectively market yourself to certain offices. You can also do a strengths finder, and in doing that you get to understand why you succeed in certain situations and why you may not do as well in others. By getting to know yourself and doing those self-assessments, this will allow you the opportunity to build your personal brand statement. So your personal brand statement takes into account those hard and soft skills, and you're able to pull that all together and explain to people why it is you do what you do in terms of oral health care, like where your focus is and kind of how you're going to proceed with treating your patients. Another thing these self-assessment tools will do is to help you create that 30-second elevator pitch. So if let's say all 4 of us were in a room together, and we had Mark Cuban from Shark Tank come in and say, okay, the person who gives me the best 30-second elevator pitch, and I mean 30-second elevator pitch, wins $1 million. I'm sure you would go do your homework and go do that to make sure that it's the best ever. So you need to keep that in mind and prepare that 30-second elevator pitch. So let's just say you walk into an interview and the doctor says, okay, well, I have your resume, but tell me about yourself. You want to be able to pull out the best of the best and put that together in the shortest statement possible. Another thing you want to do to prepare is to learn the market. You need to know what's out there. So a great way to do that for those of you who have already graduated and are licensed is to temp. I know that temping is not for everybody, but with temping, you get to see the best of the best and the worst of the worst. Another great way would just be to ask a word of mouth, and also just reading different testimonials that you may see on Facebook or maybe Indeed. You want to view those testimonials, though, kind of with an open mind, because there could be some biased opinions. And then the last thing you want to do is to determine what your non-negotiables are. What will you accept and what won't you accept? And based on those non-negotiables, you're going to be able to filter out a lot of different jobs. For instance, if you know that you absolutely will not travel an hour away from home and there's a job that's an hour and a half away from home, you won't bother pursuing that opportunity.
Okay. On the second part of that question, Doctor, what are some of the things that I should bring when I go to my actual interview?
Okay, absolutely. So you definitely want to bring another copy of your resume. Don't assume just because you sent your resume ahead of time that the person has printed it out and has it readily available for the interview process. So I actually recommend bringing maybe 2 or 3 copies. Say if you're in the building and there are a lot of practices, that may be an opportunity for you to drop your resume off at another practice. So definitely having copies of the resume on good hard stock paper. You don't want to use the flimsy paper that you can see through. You also want to have a cover letter readily available for each resume copy that you bring with you. In addition to that, you want to have a list of references. So in case the employer or the interviewer asks you for a list of your references, you can provide them that piece of paper. You may also want to have a little thank you card. So at the conclusion of the interview, you can say, thank you for the interview, with whatever verb that you want to have. And then all of that should be in a nice folder. So go to Office Depot or Staples. You don't want to use the folders that you pay 10 cents for, those folders that Walmart puts on sale. Before children go back to school, you want a nice professional like portfolio folder. And if at all possible, have a business card. Business cards are relatively inexpensive. Everybody is having a sale. And that business card simply just needs to have your name, a phone number, and your contact information. One thing you can do is get a Google Voice number if you don't want to give your personal cell phone number out. I have a Google Voice number and it works really, really well. And then you want to make sure that your email is professional. So ilikecandy@gmail.com is not a professional email. So we want to make sure we clean those up.
So not the baby girl 1, 2, 3.
No. It's luscious. No,
Yeah.
we don't want to use those. So always have professional email, and then again a Google Voice number if you don't want to give out your personal cell phone.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
What should you wear for an interview? Because I know we're told a lot about our personal appearance. So this is a nice little casual sweater that I got going on. Do you feel like this with some slacks would be okay? Or what's your opinion about that?
So that is definitely business casual, and maybe I'm just a little old fashioned, but I always think that you should be business professional. Meaning you always want to have on a nice blazer, men and women. So we can take a look at Miss Erica here. She has on a nice blazer.
Yes.
Okay, it's not too tight. The buttons aren't ready to pop. She has a nice blouse on. Cleavage is not busting out everywhere. It's just nice and clean. Her necklace is very simple. As far as jewelry, you don't want to have these big hoops like I have on. So nice studs. If you have 2 holes in your ear, again, nice small studs or even smaller hoops. But if you have like 7 or 8 piercings up and down your ear, you want to take those out. If you have facial piercings, if it's not for religious reasons, you might want to remove those as well. I would cover tattoos. Ladies, in terms of your slacks, I know that they do have jeggings that look like slacks, but no. Again, those typically are more form-fitting and tighter. So you definitely just want to go with the traditional slacks. Make sure that things are hemmed. So I'm short, I'm vertically challenged. Everything requires me to hem it or stitch witch. That's a little trick. But you want to make sure that you're not walking on the bottom of your pants. Again, your iron will be your best friend. Men, if you're going to wear, and you should be wearing a blazer, you want a nice tie, a nice button-up shirt. Ladies, no 6-inch stilettos. I don't mind you wearing heels, but they shouldn't be your club shoes. You should probably have your toes covered in socks. Derek, I'm not going to put you on blast, but
Thank you, doctor.
and no light brown, light bright colors. So try to keep it neutral, earth tones, blue and black. Those are power colors. That's science that say that. That's not me. That's not my personal opinion. And I know what's considered professional. That definition is slowly changing. But again, this is just what I found to be most effective for people during the interview process. And hair, nice, neat hair. We don't want 50 neon colors. Makeup, we don't need the black lip liner with the bright red lipstick. We just want to keep it nice and simple. Okay, no club. Do not dress like you're going to the club to go to a job interview, or like you're taking a picture for your Instagram profile. That's not what we want to do here, okay? Professional.
What about for a working interview? Like I know Derek has a t-shirt with scrubs. Would that be okay? Or like, what's your opinion on that?
So what Derek has on, I'm all for the movement, and I think that's great. That's not something you would wear to an interview, nor would I wear it to a working interview. I think that for a working interview, you should show up professional in scrubs.
Okay.
Scrubs that fit, that are ironed, hemmed if necessary, because you're there to work, not make a statement.
Okay.
That's really, really great information in that question. I'll make sure to post a picture of my entire outfit. I have on slacks, and my heels are not too crazy because I don't wear stilettos to begin with. So I'll make sure I post a picture of my entire outfit so you can kind of see what we mean by business professional. So you've showed up to the interview and you're waiting to speak to whoever you're going to speak to. What are some red flags that you are looking for once you arrive to the office, or once you're actually in the interview process? What kind of red flags are you looking for?
Absolutely. What I definitely would recommend that you show up 15 to 20 minutes early. And this gives you an opportunity to kind of scope out things. You can have a seat in the waiting area. And at that time, you can listen for certain things. Listen to how the receptionist or front office administrator is answering the phone. Listen to how patients are being addressed. You can listen to how team members are speaking with one another. A lot of times you can walk into a situation and you can feel tension in the air. So those are things that you want to pay attention to. Look to see how clean or organized the office is. So are things thrown all over the place? Are magazines everywhere? Is there dirt on the floor? Are people eating while they're talking to their patients? Depending on how the reception area is situated, sometimes you can see directly to the back. So are they observing infection control protocols? And given the current COVID-19 pandemic, that's going to be very important. During the interview process, first of all, pay attention to how long it takes them to call you back. Now, in ministry, nothing ever goes to plan. But if your interview was at 12 and they've had you sitting out there till 1:30 and they haven't said something to you, that's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're back in the interview process, some of the red flags would be, when you ask certain questions and the interviewer can't be transparent in their responses. Red flags for me would be 30-minute scheduling. Even when you have a hygiene assistant, it would really just depend. If you have given me a patient that may be a dentulist that is coming in for routine recare, then that 30-minute appointment would be okay. But it shouldn't be 30 minutes for everybody. And we know that we're going to need more time to implement those infection control protocols. So another red flag, when your interviewer can't be transparent about salary. They can't be transparent about upward mobility in terms of additional responsibilities or additional pay. So those are some of the red flags. If the interviewer is overly flirtatious, whether you're a man or a woman, or whether the interviewer is a man or a woman, just how they talk to you and address you, their tone. And there are going to be other things that you pay attention to as the dialogue continues. But if it doesn't feel right, go with your gut instinct. if it doesn't feel right, there's something that's making you feel uncomfortable. So I would stick with that.
Dr. Joy, real quick, I have a question. I know you mentioned that if you're there for an interview waiting, what would you do? Would you give them the courtesy of just waiting until the interview? Or if you've been sitting there for now 30 minutes to an hour, would you just go ahead and go to the front desk and say, hey, I don't think this is going to work for me, and go ahead and leave? Or like, how would you handle that situation?
So for me, I would give you, again, because we know that emergencies, things happen in dentistry all the time. And so you would hope that past that 15-minute mark, someone would have addressed you. So it is very much appropriate for you to go to the front and say, excuse me, I just wanted to follow up to see how much longer it would be. I know that we're scheduled for 12 o'clock. It's now 12:15. And I just want to be able to plan. Now, if it's an hour and that is remember your non-negotiables, if that is a non-negotiable for you, by all means, you have the right to walk up and say, I don't think that this, or, I had another interview planned and I want to be on time for that. Lie.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, because you don't,
yeah, but
you don't want to be blackballed, right? You don't want to be blackballed in the industry, right? So you can say, I allotted myself a certain amount of time, and I think I'm afraid that we're going to go over. So perhaps we can reschedule this for another day when the doctor has time. So you never want to burn any bridges. So whatever it is that you need to say so that they're not looking at you crazy, but then by all means, that's not what you want to do. You don't have to go back or schedule another interview.
Okay.
Thank you for the information, Doctor. I know you spoke earlier about that 30-second elevator pitch, but and that question, that famous question of tell me about yourself. Like when they ask that question, how should we truly be answering? What are they really asking? And should it be just straight professional information that's for our position, or should we involve some more personal statements in there as well?
So when you conduct those personal assessments, I think that will give you a better idea of who you truly are, and it would help you to articulate better who you are. Again, so I really identifying those soft skills. Those are really important. The hygiene appointment is the most important appointment in the dental practice. Your patients spend the majority of time with you. The hygiene appointment brings the patient into the office most often. And so during that hygiene appointment, you are really formulating or developing a relationship. You're developing that trust with the patient. And so that's where a lot of those soft skills are going to come in. Patients are going to be more compliant if they trust you and they form a connection with you. So some of those soft skills may seem like they're not professional, or that's not something that someone wants to hear about me, but those are the skills that actually make you who you are. So I think if you can be truthful about who you really, really are, really doing the homework to figure out who you are, because some of you are still babies, you're 20, so you really don't know who you are. But using those tools to at least get an idea of where you are in your life at this point, I think it would be helpful. Now, I always say you want to be your true, authentic self. So if you are an animal lover, it's okay to say that. If you are an avid outdoorsman, it's okay to say that. Some of the things that I would definitely stay away from in describing who you are is that if you are like a politic buff, we don't want to get into politics. If you're deeply religious, it's one thing to say that you're spiritual, but to highlight the fact that you're Catholic or Baptist or Muslim, you leave politics and religion out of the mix, but it's okay. I'm spiritual. That's who you are. That's who you are. I've been in practices where we prayed every day before we started, and it's so that there's nothing wrong with that. So now, if you're a person that likes to chug shots every Friday, I probably wouldn't say that. Or if you love to club hop every Saturday, those are the types of things that I would really leave out. But if you love community service, if you love helping people, if you have a good chairside manner, people think that you're funny. I love to laugh and I love to joke. So that would be something that would endear me to you. So those are the types of things that you really would want to say. But a great tool or a great thing you can do is ask other people, like, who do you think I am? How would you describe me? How other people describe you can kind of give you insight into who you truly are.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
What do you feel are important questions to ask? So probably like some of the most important things that like we should be asking that we don't know coming straight out of school.
Absolutely. So I think it's prudent to ask what the practice philosophy is. It will give you insight into the type of care that they provide for their patients. You would want to ask, is there an existing recare system in place? The type of software that they use. You would want to ask if they have a soft tissue management program. Definitely ask what their policy is on replacing instruments. Is there a separate hygiene budget? Are you, what the benefits are? Now, I know for some offices, they have a profit share program. You know, some offices have allowed the hygienist to participate in that profit share program, and other offices have not allowed the hygienist to participate because they feel like we make too much money. If you are negotiating terms to work on base pay plus production, does that production include whitening that I offer? Does it include the doctor's exam? And I know sometimes that's illegal because we don't do the exam, but you know, you need to get really, really specifics on what am I actually going to get credit for? Am I getting credit for services that I performed, or I'm only making my production off of what the front desk collects? Because now your pay is dependent upon somebody else doing their job, which I don't advocate for. How often are you allowed to see your patient? The freedom that you have in scheduling your patient. So I know for me, sometimes I needed an hour and a half for certain patients where maybe I just needed 45 minutes for another patient. So what your freedom is there, what their practice philosophy is on the preventative aspect of care. I ask what the turnover rate is, and some people may feel that that's offensive or inappropriate. I don't. To me, I lay it all on the table for me, and it's up to me to decide whether I want to deal with it or not. So if you are in an area where there are a lot of military families, it may not be uncommon to have a hygienist that is constantly coming in and out if, you know, the military spouse happens to be the one working in a practice. So what should I expect when there's inclement weather? So if the office closes and you're expected to work that day, am I still going to be paid? And ultimately, whatever you discuss, I think we're moving into new times. If it's not documented, it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of hygienists, especially with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of the problems that they're experiencing is because there was just this verbal agreement. There was nothing written in stone about, you know, what they were eligible for and what they weren't. And then it just really depends on how the interview is going in the specific office. You'll come up with other things, but I always encourage you to ask some questions. Don't be the person that is constantly just answering questions. You also want to ask questions, because remember, you are interviewing that office. One of the biggest things I always tell people is ask the office, what are they expecting from you? How do you think that I can be a benefit to this office? I think that that will provide you some insight as well.
I have a little side question, actually. Who should you be interviewing with? Because I've gone to interviews where it's an office manager who has no skills as a clinician, but is telling me things to expect, you know, so what's your feelings on that? Who should you be interviewing with? And is that a red flag if you're interviewing with someone who...
Not necessarily. I've interviewed both ways. I've interviewed with the practice administrator and I've interviewed with the doctor. I remember one particular instance where a job was posted and I applied for it and they had filled it, but they had me come in for the interview anyway. And I interviewed with the practice administrator, and she loved me so much that she went back to the doctor and she said, I need you to create a position for her. So the practice, in certain practices, the practice administrator's job is to do that, because the dentist really should be taking time to make money. They are a producer. So I just think it really, really depends. Now, if you're more comfortable with having a conversation with the dentist prior to you accepting the position, then you're more than it's acceptable for you to ask that. So whatever your comfort level is, I would say. But hopefully you would get to meet everybody before you had to make a decision.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Mhm.
kind of listening to everything that we've been talking about already, I feel that it's really important that you knowing yourself, doing those self-assessments really is going to help you know the questions to ask, so you know more about your non-negotiables, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah.
I do feel like the right office for you will accept kind of how you approach them and kind of your approach to learning. That's a really big thing. That's something that I think is really important. I've had a job where I'm the type of person that asks a lot of questions. I like to know how things work. I love just the most minuscule detail. I love it. Tell me what it is so I can understand it. But I had a job where the people that I work for, every time I asked them a question, they thought that I was challenging them. And I'm like, I'm not challenging you at all. I want to know how it works so that I can be more helpful to you, so that I can maximize your time and my time, so we can be more efficient and we can do more. But it wasn't a great environment for me, because, I got in trouble every time I asked a question, and I was like, I got a lot of questions. So this is not going to work for me at all. Couldn't do it. I had to leave that job because, it's not, that wasn't an office where I was going to be successful. So really do take the time to do those self-assessments so that you know yourself as well as you can.
Absolutely.
So once you finish the interview, we kind of wanted to ask about, how do you follow up after that interview, especially like knowing when you can expect a decision on whether or not you have the job, or sending like a thank you note or a thank you email, that kind of thing.
So the first question you want to ask at the conclusion of the interview is when you should expect a follow-up, and how, and in what method. So should you expect a phone call, or will you get an email? So based on that, if they tell you, it'll be 2 weeks and you should hear something by then, and you haven't heard anything within that 2-week period, then it's okay for you to follow up. And I would base my method of communication based on how you were able to communicate with them initially. So unfortunately, you have some people that just don't like the telephone. It's just easier and more efficient for them to communicate via email. And if that was the primary method of communication, then I would send an email. If it was via phone, then I would call and say, hey, at the conclusion of the interview, I was expecting to hear something within 2 weeks, and it's been 2 weeks. So I just wanted to follow up to see if a decision had been made, and if there are any additional questions I can answer to help facilitate a decision. So definitely. And here's the thing. Some people will say, well, I'm not going to call back because then they're going to think I'm pressed for the job. Well, if it's a job you really like, you should be pressed for that job. So get uncomfortable, or get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Put yourself out there, because to me that then shows initiative, and it shows that you definitely want to be there. And here's the fact of the matter, guys: people get busy all the time. So don't expect that, oh, well, this is Dr. Joy, they should have called me. It doesn't work that way all the time. I mean, people have lives, and in super busy practices, sometimes things just get overlooked. So it's okay. Sometimes it's just a reminder, like, oh my gosh, I thought you had sent her the reminder letter. I actually, when I started working as an educator, I remember interviewing, and I remember filling out the paperwork, and I didn't hear anything. The next thing I heard, I actually received an email that scheduled me to be in clinic. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so I had to pick up the phone and call, and I'm like, I just received the schedule and I'm in clinic. I didn't even know I had been hired. And they had just simply forgot to send me my hire letter. So things happen all the time. Like, they get busy, and it's okay. I would recommend, and again, this is something that sets you apart from other people, at the conclusion of the interview, like I said, you can have that little thank you card, and you can give it to them right then and there. Or you may want to take the opportunity to go home and write the thank you card and reference something specifically that was said in the interview. So if the interviewer said, I have a kid that's going to be testing for his black belt in another week, best of luck to your son. I'm sure he did great. I'm sure he has that black belt now. Again, you're establishing that relationship, and you're just making yourself a little bit more memorable. So those are things that you can do. Another thing, and I can't remember if I mentioned about having the business card. again, you want to always make sure you leave them with a way to connect with you. So that would be that.
Okay, Doc. That's awesome, Doctor. Since we've been talking and we're getting towards the end of that interview, doing the follow-up, you mentioned those things in the business aspect. I wanted to take advantage of the time that we had with you to ask you a question more about, for those new grads who are looking to build and grow and maybe trying to get more understanding of the industry so that they can possibly become an entrepreneur or create a new stream of income while they're in the industry. What would you say to those new grads that those are some, or what avenues can they take to take advantage of, being that they are a new grad, they don't have a lot of networking yet?
So one thing I encourage you to do is network, network, network. Never underestimate the power of networking, and you need to network outside of your profession. If this COVID-19 pandemic, what it should have taught everybody is that you don't leave all of your eggs in one basket. Okay. I have never ever truly relied on just dental hygiene as a means of income. I have done it all. I have sold real estate. I have been an eyelash extensionist. Now I train people how to put on eyelash extensions. I've taught Zumba classes. So there's so many things that I've done in the past. And believe it or not, my skill sets, the things that I've learned as a dental hygienist, have helped me in those different areas. And so, you know, if you are good at speaking and you're a motivational speaker, then speak. If you are an excellent gardener, then you develop content on how to teach other people how to garden. I think that people who are involved in other things outside of hygiene are definitely more well-rounded people. Not to say that people who just focus on hygiene are less than, that's not what I'm saying. But I think that it's just really important to be a well-rounded person. I can tell you that when I was in school and considering dental school, what they told me is that we really don't look for the students who studied biology in undergrad. We don't look for those students. We want students who may have studied liberal arts. We want a more well-rounded student. And so the same applies here in life. There's just so many opportunities for dental hygienists. If you think about the different roles of the dental hygienist, you guys should remember this from school. You can be an administrator, you can be in corporate. I had somebody reach out to me to say, I'm looking for a dental hygienist, but I need this dental hygienist to have experience in, they needed some type of business degree, and then they needed to have experience with product development. And I'm like, whoa. So there was only one person that I could think of that had that type of experience. So again, the networking, don't be afraid to try other things. Now, please don't be that person that's trying to sell me a different product every 5 minutes. Don't be that person. I just can't. It's just like, I wish that you were calling me to see how I'm doing, but you're probably trying to sell me something. Like, don't be that person, but don't be afraid to chase your other passions or your other dreams. Like I said, I have an online hair store. Most people don't know, but it's another stream of income. So yeah, it's just network, network, network. Never leave all of your eggs in one basket. And we need hot educators. I can tell you this now. We need a lot of hygiene educators. So consider education.
When you say, sorry, when you say well-rounded, what do you mean when you say that? Can you describe that a little bit more?
You just don't want to be the person, how do I put that without being offensive? Just, you know, you're not just all hygiene, you know what I mean? Well-rounded, meaning you've just been exposed to different things. So like a well-rounded student, like a well-rounded student prior to going to dental school would be somebody, again, I'll go back to that example, who just didn't study science courses. They may have played an instrument or played a sport or taken up a language. Just, you know, be diversified. It's almost like a portfolio. You want it to be a little bit different at the end of the day.
That makes sense.
I can see how that can work, because building rapport with your patients, will give you more things to be able to link with those patients to make you a better hygienist in itself as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Many hygienists have other things going on, especially now, especially within the Brown Girl RDH group. Like Martell just doesn't do one thing. She's not just a hygienist. Look what she's done with Brown Girl RDH. So that's kind of what I mean. She's definitely more well-rounded in it. With Brown Girl RDH, what I remember when she started that, I remember her initial journey. And I think the vision that she had when she started is completely different from where this vision is now. Like, there are so many brown girls in different professions. So, you know, she's not going to limit herself anymore. So that's just, she's just more well-rounded now.
Yeah, but I think kind of like you said, though, allowing yourself to evolve, because I think once we all, you know, for me personally, I had my tunnel vision on becoming a hygienist. And now I'm a hygienist. So now I think the question is like what Derek said, you know, what now? Like, well, what else can I do? What other side hustle? You know, so that's interesting.
One thing I always tell people is that I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I know, like this, I wish that I could say that this is it for me, but it's not. And people that have known me since high school and known me since college, they're like, you were just always very driven. This is not, I just feel like there's something more for me, but I can't tell you what that it is. So when I say I actually will probably go back to school and get another doctorate degree, and people are like, you have lost your whole mind. And perhaps I have, but the sky's the limit. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be. And who says that I just had to be a mom, or I just had to be a wife, or I just had to be a dental hygienist? Again, I have a degree in forensics because I love watching Snapped. Now, ask me what I do with it. I really don't do anything with it, but it's like, you know what? I'm curious. You think I'm playing.
I love that.
It's just, you know, I feel like if I'm interested in it, I'm going to do it. And I don't need anybody else's approval. I just need this approval here.
I like that.
Yeah, that's such great information. Dr. Joy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. This is just so much information that we're learning, that we can share with the new grads that that we didn't have when we were coming out. This is just has been such a pleasure to be talking with you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Absolutely. I think what you guys are doing is a wonderful thing. The students are really glad to have you and to establish this platform. Like I said, there was nothing like this when I came out. There was really no blueprint. What was most beneficial to me, and I called Pam Quinones from Hygiene Associates. She helped me from day one and has been a huge supporter of me since then. But, you know, now you have so many more. She was my only resource at the time. I picked up the phone, Pam, what do I do? What do I ask for? And it was that one phone call that actually set me, when she's like, you know, absolutely under no circumstances will you accept anything less than this. And she really helped to guide me. And you need to have resources like that. Again, they just didn't exist at the time. But I say that to say, don't be afraid to use your resources. You do not have to do this all by yourself. And had I not had the foresight to pick up the phone and call her, I would not have been in the position that I was very early on in my career.
Absolutely. With that being said, if you guys have any additional questions about anything we talked about in today's video, please don't hesitate to send us messages, and we will be glad to answer any questions that you have. And I know that we had a lot of different questions that we asked, especially when you go to the interview. So we're going to attach a list of those questions and some other questions that you may want to ask at the interview, so that you can kind of have that as a resource and even take that to the interview with you, so that you can look at exactly what it is that's important for you to ask. And don't forget to subscribe to the Brown Girl RDH YouTube channel, so that you know when the videos come out, when our series come out, and all the other wonderful videos that this organization posts on this channel. And Next week, we're going to be talking about your first job as a clinician, kind of what to expect and how different it's going to be, because I'm going to tell you it's going to be different than what you're used to. We're actually going to do that video in a part 1 and a part 2 because it's a lot of information and we want to just give you as much as we can. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. Other than that, we will see you next time.
Thank
just
you
wanted
again.
to add one thing.
Sure.
I'm sorry, guys, really quick.
Sure.
Guys, definitely reach out to Doug Perry as well. He owns the company gethired.com, and on YouTube he has fabulous videos that will answer a lot of the questions that we reviewed today. I've actually reached out to him to help me do my CV, my resume more than once. I know your resume is a big thing, but he offers some great tips. And again, those are things that are resources that are free to you online. So please take advantage of that as well.
And then one question, that's D-U-B, Doug Perry?
Doug, D-O-U-G, Doug Perry, yep, gethired.com. I think I'm saying the name of his company the correct way, but he has some really great tips there as well. So not getting paid to say that, I'm just saying that those were great resources that I use for myself, but also my students found very useful as well.
Okay, for sure. We'll make sure to put that in the bio as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much again, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Dr. Joy.
Absolutely. You guys enjoy your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.